We're in the bear. This is really the bear for us. It got postponed because we had the pulse chain launch on the horizon. So even though the price was down, it quickly rebounded, and there was no depression because there was always the prospect of pulse chain launch on the horizon. So the community held strong, and then obviously pulse chain launched, and that was a huge middle finger to all the haters that were saying it wasn't going to launch, and Richard was just taking the money and running. So that was a temporary bullish thing, and that also brought back the bull market gains because you had pulse chain PLS token at 3x the SAC rate, plus the 1000x that all the HEX sacrificers had, and then obviously you had the multiple 1000x's that all the PulseX sacrificers had, and honestly for PLS still have, and PulseX they're still up a lot compared to had they've just been holding HEX. So that's it. I mean, now is the bear. Okay, this is our bear. Okay, so Bitcoin still in a bear, but it's fair to say that it bottomed. It's really following the cycles very closely, and I think if the macros permit it, we're looking at a very, very exciting bull market to come in the beginning of 2024, and it could last till end of 2025. I mean, there's nothing really saying otherwise as far as the price performance for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now the altcoins, obviously, once those things come back and the money is in, it rolls down to it, and I think it rolls down to where there is the most marketing, and that really comes from the community. So it is important that the community's there, and the community is there. So I'm very bullish for HEX and Pulse and even PulseX. Pulse did get delisted from OKX, but it wasn't listed. It is important to realize that it wasn't listed on any centralized exchange in its first cycle, and it outperformed every centralized exchange token. So the on-ramps are important, but they're overrated. I think, I mean, as long as there's a bridge, and there are on-ramps, like there is gopulse.com, and there's obviously a bunch of other ones that are either being built or have been built. I know people talk about Coast. I don't know much about that. There's also changenow.io, so it's very accessible. And when the money comes in, when the money comes into crypto, I think provided that the community is very active, I'm still very confident it's going to go up a lot. And I hope that Richard will be things will be settled or won earlier than later, and Richard will be able to be public and things like that. But even if he's not, I think we could go up a lot from here with the community and everything. And Noah Rodriguez says Portal X. I heard Portal X is pretty good. So yeah, check that out. So it's for me personally, it's a question of when and not if. I'm very confident, and I can't tell the future, and I'm not a financial advisor. I'm very confident it's coming back. So I remember right when Bitcoin hit its all-time highs, like people were choosing the altcoins they were going to get into, and for a very long time they were in some good profits. They might even still be in profits now if it was early enough. So now's really the time where you get going and you place your bets, and that's what I'm doing. So I guess just a little bit more of a broader macro look. I know that inflation, it went up a little bit, and it's reflexive. So on the way down, it's going to go back up, but it's still coming down, I think. And I think we're going to be in the 2s probably next CPI. So that's very bullish. I think that they want to lower rates because really the banks are in a lot of distress. A lot of them are going out. So, I mean, that's just more bullishness. And once you wait for the rates to be lowered, I think just the prospect of no more rate hikes and rates starting to lower will really price in a lot of the bullish action. So if you're waiting for that, you could miss out on a lot of the potential gains from stocks, and obviously therefore crypto. I think crypto and stocks are pretty tied together at this point. It's not separate from the broader financial system. So that's it, and that's how I'm betting. I think now's not really the time to go short. We're already in depression, so not much more downside in my opinion. So how am I approaching it? Obviously, I've written this off for a long time, and I don't know. I maintain that, but I don't. Everyone, it's their choice individually. But I'm not spending any dry powder on INC token and HEX. I'm not. It's not worth it. I mean, INC again. The dump token, I think. But everything right now looks like a dump token, so it's not really so. I don't think it's so appropriate to rub it in, but it whenever we saw pumps previously, INC pumped the least, and it did dump the most, and it's still happening. And there's reason to believe it's going to continue, because I mean the fundamentals are really the same. So that's for INC, and then EHEX. EHEX, obviously, you guys know that I'm not bullish on EHEX, and is that to say that EHEX won't have like a rip? I think it'll have a rip in a bull market, because everything does. And especially if HEX is successful and pulsechain is successful, people are just going to throw money in everything. So it could have a rip, but considering it's delisted from Uniswap, it's delisted from 1inch, it's delisted from Sushi, I think. I don't know exactly. It's delisted from Match XYZ. It's really delisted from everything. So it's very inaccessible. I know you could go on the swap Hedron thing, but it's very, very inaccessible. And even on hex.com, they switched it to PulseX. So, I mean, right now we're betting on this thing coming back. And if it comes back, HEX will do very well. But there could be a scenario where even if HEX does very well, EHEX gets left behind. Either it doesn't pump as much, and it still pumps, which I think it will pump this bull market, but it could also just go to zero. I mean, that is a possible thing. I mean, it is a fork in the communities on PulseChain. So your upside is closing the gap a little bit more, and your downside is eternal. So I think to spread everything over 5 coins is crazy. And a lot of people are going even deeper. And they're going into like the coins building on PulseChain and the meme coins and everything like that. And that's ridiculous, because they're all completely dependent on PulseChain making it and doing very well. And then maybe some of them might do well. Maybe. But that's not even a guarantee. So you need PulseChain to do well. But even if PLS does well, they still might not do well. They probably won't do well. I mean, look at every meme coin everyone was talking about from 2 months ago. They're all down like crazy. But obviously everything's down. So I'm not trying to. It's not really the time to really engage in that sort of thing. But most coins, look at every coin. Most of them don't make it. So you need Pulse to make it. Then maybe you can make it. Maybe do good, probably not as well as Pulse. Doesn't make any sense for me. So I think to spread yourself on 5 is a lot, and I think to spread yourself, then to go into like the meme, most of them are just meme coins, but even like the coins building, the builders, right? Westcott's a big fan of them. I think that is just not good. I think it's not good. I think I'm down to 3. And I'm not even, and I'm accumulating the most in HEX. I mean, and there's a reason for that. The reason is that everybody that's holding HEX is down like crazy. They're like, it's very oversold. You can't say that about Pulse, because people sacked their 1000x HEX for Pulse with a whale bonus multiplier, and they're only down like 15% right now. They're down 50, so they're still up like hundreds and maybe even over 1000x. So does that mean I'm not buying Pulse? No, I'm buying Pulse, but not as much as I'm buying HEX. I think HEX, and then you have the T shares, you have the yield. all those things. So that's what I'm doing. I'm heaviest HEX, then Pulse, and then PulseX. Right now, PulseX is down a lot, so you can get a lot for very little money, but it's no guarantee it's going to outperform PLS and HEX. So that's really what I'm doing. And notice everybody that was buying the dips since, let's say, 10 or 15 cents is probably out of money, because there was just dip after dip after dip. But if you looked at your income, your current amount of dry powder, and you dollar cost average strictly based on that, you're sitting pretty good, and you're obviously not cash poor, and you could support yourself, hopefully. So I think DCAing is really the way to go, because the dip has been dipping a lot, and you could really get in a lot better prices right now. And really the best way to get in those prices is by having money, and the way to have money is by dollar cost averaging. I remember Dixon Piper came on the stream, and he's a very smart guy, and it was a pleasure interviewing him. I like him a lot, but he said he was comfortable at 2 cents being out of dry powder, because he thought the bottom was in. And then obviously the SEC thing came in. There's no way he could have predicted that, but he probably, and he's not the exception, but a lot of people couldn't take advantage of the prices. I remember Motley also thought the bottom was in. A lot of these people that are very, very intelligent people and things like that, they thought that the HEX bottom was in, the Pulse bottom was in, but it wasn't. And you can't be upset at them for not anticipating an SEC lawsuit. I mean, I don't think anybody saw this coming. People thought the SEC thing was just to see if Richard was paying people to talk about it, which they weren't. So I mean, that wasn't problematic. But now this obviously drove the price down a lot. So the overall thing is, I think that it's important to DCA. It's important to buy, in my opinion. None of this is financial advice, but I'm saying my approach is to DCA. And I'm long. I mean, I've been in it this long, and I could only go long at this point. I mean, to go short or to sell and leave forever when the price is this low, when you've been in it this long, it doesn't make any sense to me. But everybody has to choose. I know a lot of people are thinking, maybe in case it doesn't work, just to buy some Ethereum or like Chainlink. That's something to consider if you research a coin that's more mainstream. I know Cardano is a good blue chip example. So people could look into those for diversification, but it only really makes sense if you're dealing with a lot of money, because for me, I mean, it wouldn't leave me sitting pretty even at the top of a bull market. It would be very mild euphoria, short-lived, and not in much gains. So I mean, unless I go into like the higher risk ones, which you're already dealing with higher risk. But if you look at the blue chips, it's like really BNB, I think, and obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, and maybe like Cardano or something, Chainlink, even though they sell a lot. I mean, that's definitely a very important project for DeFi. So people are looking into that. I think that's a bigger player play, in my opinion. So I'm not doing that. I'm just continuing to DCA, and it's giving me a lot. And hopefully, I mean, some of my staking ladders, I'm just like sort of like writing off. Like I'm trying to build new staking ladders where I could have a lot of T-shares. So that's really what's happening. And I think there's really the opportunity to accumulate over 1 million HEX, even if you're a small player, over these next few months through dollar cost averaging. But everyone, I mean, what is that worth if the price goes to zero? So like if you're accumulating EHEX right now, you could you could get 1,000 T-shares, let's say, or 10,000 T-shares. But like, what is that worth if EHEX doesn't come back or doesn't do as well as HEX? So, I mean, everybody has to make their own decision, but I'm narrowing the scope. I don't want to be diversified. So it's mostly HEX and Pulse and a little bit of PulseX, but that's it. That's all I'm doing. And I'm hoping for the best. And but I really think that it's look at, we were talking about like the importance of the community, and you finally see some sort of capitulation from the community, and some sort of lowering, some sort of decline in social media engagement from this community. Finally, you're starting to see some of that somewhat, but then compare it to every other community. Okay, so the community is the marketing, and marketing is very important for onboarding, and it's still crazy. There's still an insane amount of exclusive HEX pulse chain streamers. Okay, so like think about, are there any exclusive Chainlink streamers? I don't think so. Are there any even I don't think there's even like really an exclusive Cardano streamer. Like it's really like, they're like all the biggest cryptos, their community, it's not really an exclusive community. There's just sort of people that are into crypto, and they have like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and like the marketing comes from the biggest crypto influencers. They just cover everything. They cover XRP, they cover Cardano. There are some, the only other community that I've really seen that has sort of exclusive content creators is XRP. The problem is XRP Ripple dumps a lot of their XRP pre-allocation. I'm sure their investors that they give XRP to on top of their maybe shares of the Ripple company are also dumping. So I mean, there is a lot of that, but so again, like relative to other cryptos, there's still an exclusive community that's very strong, and it's pricing in the absence of Richard Hart and the SEC thing. But I think the absence of Richard Hart is temporary, and I think the community is still extremely strong. So I'm pretty optimistic that it's going to do very well, in my opinion, and that's really why I'm accumulating. But yeah, I mean, these next couple of months are going to be very crucial, and I think it's a very important time to really try and generate capital and deploy it accordingly. But that's really what it is. Everybody was talking about the bear market. Everyone was saying that a bear market was going to happen. It was not a question of if, it's a question of when. I think there was a thought that HEX would still thrive in a bear market, but okay, fine, it's not. So it's like every other crypto where there's a bear market. I think even most people thought there'd be a bear market. Maybe people thought it would be 20-cent bottom, 10-cent bottom. But the bear market was inevitable, and the bear market is here. So how are you going to conduct yourself in the bear market now that it's here? I mean, you could succumb to the bad news and sell and leave and FUD, or you could get going and buy. And obviously, the chips will fall where they fall. But I'm obviously not going to do that. So that's really where we're at right now. The bear market's here. You complained the OGs are all on top of you, and you can't. And they have all the HEX and whatever, and they're just. I mean. They're still, obviously they got the better T-share rate, and if you're not making a lot of money, maybe you can't get OG level T-shares, but whatever, that's just how it works. I mean, there's always going to be people on top of you in life and in crypto, and the same applies for every other crypto. But now's a great opportunity to really get good footing, and when a bull market comes and more new people come in at higher prices, I mean, you could really be a big player in the space. I mean, you're getting in before centralized exchange listings and all those things. So, I mean, take what you want from it, but that's what it is. We're here during the bear, and I wish some people would be streaming more frequently, and that's fine. I haven't been getting as much concurrent viewership as I was like at pulsechain launch, but it is cool that like I'm getting like all my replays are really getting over 1,000 views because I'm delivering the goods. And there's also a good time for people to see who I really am and what I think and stuff like that, because a lot of people didn't really watch me and just sort of heard from other people bad things because I was put in their HEX bags, whatever. But now I'm sort of the only one of the only people to watch. So a lot of people are forced to watch this stream, and they could realize that maybe I'm not such a bad dude, which is, I think, a very good opportunity. And it's another reason for me to stay consistent with streaming. But streaming is a job. It does feel like a job now. And that's fine. Making the thumbnail, it's not as exciting. Going live, it's not as exciting. But that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. It's like now's really the time to get going when the going gets tough. I think it's a great time also to generate income. And the bottom indicators are just, I think, a very foolish thing. Think about how many times people called the bottom because somebody capitulated or some bad news, and think about the price then, and think about how the price is lower now. So there's going to be one bottom, and there's going to be one bad news happening at the time of that bottoming, and that'll be the thing that everybody likes to focus on and make it as though it was obvious, but you didn't know. It could have been one of the, at the time, it could have been one of the hundreds of bottom signals that ended up not being bottom signals because the price went lower. People were calling bottoms since like 10 cents. 10 cents was supposed to be the support. Like, it would never go below that. So we just don't know anything. But we know that cryptos that have product market fit in a good community go up over time. I mean, that's the way it's been working. So let's hope. And they don't have a insider allocation dumping, rug pull, usually go up. And that's what held true for the cryptos that came before HEX. And I think that's what's going to hold true for HEX. But it's going through its regulatory situation, which Bitcoin went through, and XRP, and maybe Ethereum also. Not as much. Kind of circumvented that, but that's what's got to happen. You gotta jump through the hoops in order to make the big leagues. Okay, so hopefully it'll pass with flying colors. But now's the time to decide. You don't want to wait till there's a ruling, and then, I mean, unless you're a conservative investor that's not interested in making like 1000x's, I mean, probably now's really the time to decide. But everyone is different, and I'm not a financial advisor. It's not financial advice. Go do your own research. But to panic now, I think, is a little foolish because we're just in the bear, baby. This is the bear. Not as sexy as it seemed. It seemed really sexy. The bear seemed really, really attractive when you could only get 4,000 HEX for $8,000. Okay. When you could only get 8,000 HEX for $4,000, 50 cent top. That means if you wanted 10,000 HEX, you had to spend $5,000. The guy that bought the house, the guy that sold the house to buy the HEX, sold his house for what? It was like 200. It was like, I don't know, $400,000 or something. I don't know. And he got like 240,000 HEX. I mean, that when you see that people have to do that and they can't even get a million HEX, I mean, that's when you're like, oh, I just want to wait for the bear market. I want to wait till I could get a lot more with a lot less money. Well, that's where we're at. I'm getting for $1,000. I'm getting a house's worth of HEX at all-time highs. A house. Do you see anyone selling their house now? Or do you see anyone selling their car? Or anyone selling their watches now? I mean, it's very rare. I did actually see the super HEX win guy said he was selling his car and watches, which is interesting. And that guy is a winner. I mean, he did get in on Bitcoin and Ethereum early, and he got in on HEX, I think, day one. And he's been wildly successful. And that's the kind of person that's selling stuff now. And I would never recommend selling anything that you need, or anything. Would never recommend even selling stuff. I'm not doing that, but it is interesting that when the price is at 50 cents, everyone's selling everything, and when the price is at under a penny, no one's selling anything. And I think part of that is because when the price is low, I mean, there is the potential for never coming back and for complete failure. But and there's obviously, when the price is high, there's certainty of continuity and continued price action to the upside. But yeah, I mean, that is what it is, and that's how it's always going to be. So the good news is you don't have to sell your house at this point, and you could still get over 1 million HEX. You could like get 4 times the amount of HEX that people are selling their house for, without selling your house. The bad news is obviously there's bad news. The bad news is there's bad news. There's SEC investigation. There's bad price performance, and everybody has to decide. But that is what it is, guys. Smash the like button and subscribe. Let's look at the chat. I haven't been looking at the chat much. Let's see what you guys are saying. Leave your questions, comments in the chat right now, for me to read, I guess. But thank you guys for tuning in. And again, please hit the like button if you haven't. Please go hit that like button real quick. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell notification, okay, guys? Bell. Time to level up, okay? You're a subscriber. Now it's time to get the notifications. But